Anybody gets rowdy on the Zoom, mute everybody, and then if you can determine who's the problem, then you can boot them off the meeting. Once they're booted off, they can't come back in.
Oh, mute all right there.
So I can look in my books, but then maybe I go back and do everything is running, the mics are hot. You need more money.
Yeah.
But I can actually do that if I get on. You just take
Good to see you. What's that? I like it. You look like you're about to meet up with Jimmy Buffett.
Are you stating certain hours here that you want that? Are there certain hours you want me to state here? They did say daylight hours, and because winter would be different, and for me to say 7 to 6. Like, oh, winter time. Okay.
Sure. It's only gonna cost you a bunch. That's the mics to see if we can hear. Or do you feel good about push to operate these rascals?
I think their default is always. Unplug it. All technology.
I know.
Nope.
You ready? So you ready? Okay. You ready? Or Ben? Well, it's 6 o'clock, everybody. And I'd like to get you back to the All-Star game. I know some of you are missing the All-Star game, so we'll get that going. I'd like to welcome you to the July 13th, 2021 County Commissioners Special Meeting. I'd like to call this meeting to order, and Commissioner Abera,
Here.
Commissioner Richardson,
Here.
and Commissioner Gosar is also here. I'd like you to stand and join me with the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Well, thank you, everybody, for being here, and thank you for joining us online. It looks like have a nice crowd once again. Sorry about if it's a little warm in here. We are a day or two away from a cooling system being installed, so thank you for your patience with us. Just to give you a little update on this meeting and the format. There'll be no public hearing and public comments on non-agenda items. just so that there's some understanding about why that was done. Those public comments, if they were taken on this topic, might be construed as a part of a public hearing and a continuation of a public hearing. That public hearing is finished as of June 1st, 2021. There will probably be some comments and some questions from the commissioners to connect, Jen. There might not be. I suspect, since I know that I have them, I would expect some of those. And then after that, there'll be a regular motion and either approval or denial of the permit in front of us. So there's no public hearing, item number 3. Item number 4, public comment, and please limit it to non-agenda items only. Does anybody have a non-agenda item for public comment? Anybody online, would you have a non-agenda item for public comment? And last time indoors here, not an agenda item for public comment. And then online. Commissioners, I'd entertain a motion to close the public comment.
Mr. Chairman, I think we all know why we're here. That would be why there are no other comments. I move that we close public comment.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item 5, disclosures. Commissioner Ibarra, any disclosures?
I have none.
Commissioner Richardson, any disclosures?
I have none.
And I have none also. Item 6, considerations of changes to the agenda. Jennifer, Kurt, any changes? Jackie, Kayla? All right. Item number 7, present for consideration the Rail Tie Wind Project, WECS-01-21. And just a little housekeeping, if you would turn off your phone or turn them to vibrate, that would be much appreciative. So without further ado, Albany County Planner David Gertz, floor is yours. Go ahead, please.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, so this is rail tie application. Quite the journey. We've heard a lot of public comments on the sites of the spectrum. It's done a great job of collecting that, reading that, and to understand all the comments for this project. And so I want to making this such a well, first off, I'd like to clarify the questions that came up about our application process. I'm going to do about what our commission rules would be for this project. I submit this. This is the conditional use. Sorry, I'm not supposed to have this. So this application, this WEX permit is the conditional use application for this project. Because of all of the different impacts specific to this project, or to wind projects that are unique for wind projects, the WEX permit was created so that it included all those conditional use permit application questions, as well as all of the specific ones to these projects. And this isn't different from we have also a tower permit application that's the same way. It's our conditional use permit for towers. So just to clarify that. Moving into the application. So the applicant for this project and project owner will be ConnectGen Albany County LLC. The landowners for this project include Bath Limited, Family Limited Partnership, Nancy Bath Revocable Trust, Bath Sisters LLC, Trueback Back LLC, Craig Angus Ranch Land LLC, David Kilpatrick and Nikki Malcolm, John B. Parker and Sharon B. Parker Family Trust, Juan and Johnny Reyes, Barton Smith and Langdon Smith Jr., and William and Patricia Kilpatrick. This project will include up to 120 turbines, 94 which will be on private land, and 26 that'll be on state of Wyoming land. The total height of the towers will be up to 590 feet. high. The project location, this is located, there's 26,000 acres around tie siting and across the plains there. Current zoning for the project is agricultural. They're requesting a WEX permit for 94 wind turbines that are on the private land. We do not regulate on state land, so that's what this permit is for. And surrounding properties include those that are zoned agricultural and rural residential. The county, a number of folks have reviewed this, and I'll just give us a summary of some of those reviews. The county engineer, Bill Gorman, at the time, requested more detailed site plans prior to construction to ensure setback standards are met. New access roads will require a county approach permit. The applicant should consider reducing the number of access points from Cherokee Park Road, flagging of Cherokee Park Road, and the US Highway 287 intersection will be needed. Culverts with less than 2 feet of cover will need to be protected, and portions of Cherokee Park Road and Pumpkin Vine Road that will be used during the construction phase will need to be surfaced with at least 6 feet of, 6 inches of crushed space prior to construction. The Wyoming Department of Transportation reviewed this. Ryan Shields, district traffic engineer, stated that the project will require a road use agreement for affected state routes, a traffic control plan with the collaboration between YDOT and others will be required. Hauling companies must have needed experience and certifications. Modifications to VDVU interchange ramp must have Federal Highway Administration approval. YDOT right-of-way markers must not be disturbed or have a plan to be addressed if they are. Utilities will need to be licensed, and modifications to approaches on 287 will require permitting. Game and Fish reviewed this. Amanda Loesch, Habitat Protection Supervisor, has recommended that the development of a monitoring plan include a technical advisory committee. Has also recommended that construction in Mule Deer Crucial Area Range not occur between November 15th and April 30th. Conservation District reviewed that, but didn't have any concerns. So this project is the comprehensive plan for wind projects. Basically says that it promotes wind projects as long as they're properly sited and developed, and that's what we're looking at today is the proper siting of this project. Just to give you a summary of the the permit requirements, notice has been provided as required. Roads. So the project site will be accessed primarily from US Highway 287. From here, the project will use Hermosa Road, Pumpkin Vine Road, Cherokee Park Road, Sportsman's Lake Road, Boulder Ridge Road, and Dale Creek Road, and an unnamed paved road or turnoff of US Highway 287. Interstate 80 will provide additional access to the north part of the county or more north part of the project via VDVU Road and Monument Road. Department of Transportation will require use agreement, traffic control plan, and consultation and permitting for any modifications of the state transportation system. The applicant will be required to enter into a road maintenance agreement with Albany County, which that process has began. There's been discussions between ConnectGen with Road and Bridge and others to develop that document. The applicant has provided detailed mapping of hauled routes and traffic study for the project area. Access and utility licensing and permitting will be sought from the Department of Transportation in Albany County before using state and county roads, and a long-term maintenance agreement must be fully executed with Albany County prior to commence of any work within the boundaries, within the project boundaries. And then a similar agreement will be executed with YDOT as well. Interference. The applicant has notified 7 microwave transmission and emergency communication providers of the project. The applicant is buffering around lateral boundaries of Fresnel zones associated with microwave paths. Emergency response plan has been provided and routed to applicable entities. A decommissioning plan was provided. The wind turbines will be painted non-reflective and unobtrusive off-white color. Access will be secured by a locked door. Any access has to go through that locked door to get into the turbines. The applicant has agreed to comply with permit signage standards and will install high voltage warning signs. The applicant will meet all setback requirements as they presented in their site plan. To deal with light impact, the applicant has proposed to use aircraft detection lighting systems to mitigate light impacts. They provided the certificate of liability that's required. A waste management plan has been provided. Decommissioning reclamation plans have been provided. And then all of one change there's a couple of changes in here. I'll note the changes for the record. So letters of consent for property owners. All property owners have provided the required consent letters with the required information. At the time that this was written, we were still waiting on one of those to be completed to our satisfaction, and it's now been provided. So findings necessary for approval. Site plan's been provided. We'll have to show that this project does not address or adversely affect the public health, safety, and welfare of the community. And the WEX project will not, we have to also show that it will not overburden county services. And there's a number of impacts that are required to be addressed and looked at. I'll kind of skim through some of those. If you have any other questions after I skim through, I'd be happy to read the whole section or go through the whole section or answer questions. Economic and social impacts. The project is projected to provide $176 million in tax revenue to the state and county. The applicant addressed the common concern of decreasing property values for those around these projects. They cited a number of studies that concluded that if there were a decrease in nearby property values, they were negligible. The applicant also concluded that the increase in demands on community services and infrastructure would be modest. Air quality, they'll be working with Wyoming Department of Environmental Quality, Air Quality Division to meet all of those requirements to make sure that they have the permitting from them for dust and other air quality issues. Water quality, a storm water pollution prevention plan will be developed in accordance with federal and state requirements. And then general nuisances, those include shadow, flicker, noise, and vibration have been looked at with the studies that were provided by the applicant. Shadow flicker would be below the 30 hours per year threshold that is an industry standard. The applicant will be working with the Federal Aviation Administration for approval of their aircraft detection lighting system. And then noise. So that's been addressed through their noise study that shows that the noise won't exceed 55 dBA at any non-participating property lines. They have a bunch of information on soil disturbance. Approximately 1,280 acres of soil will be disturbed during the project, and when they will reclaim the majority of that, and once it's completed, 165, almost 166 acres will be the footprint that's left from the original disturbance. Wildlife impacts. They have been coordinating with U.S. Fish and Wildlife and Game and Fish on this. And they'll be working with that through the Industrial Siting Council as well. Cultural resources. They will be conducting studies prior to ground disturbance to make sure that they're meeting all of the federal and state requirements when it comes to that. Findings of fact. Summary of the application information, reviews, summary of wind energy conversion system, permit requirements, and the findings necessary for approvals listed in the report are incorporated here as findings of fact. Conclusions of law, the applicant is proceeding in accordance with the Albany County Zoning Resolution, Chapter 5, Section 12. So through this review, the applicant has addressed the impacts associated with this project. The applicant is currently working with county staff to develop a road improvement plan and maintenance agreement to address impacts to county roads. Reports and studies completed by licensed professionals appear to be substantiate information in the application, and all required reports, plans, and documentation have been provided. And so planning and zoning reviewed this at a regular meeting, and they requested or recommended approval of the rail tie wind project. And with the adopting and incorporating the findings of fact and conclusions of law as listed in the staff report. I'll be happy to answer any questions that you have for me.
Commissioners, any questions for David?
I have none.
I have none.
None for me also, David. Thank you. So commissioners, would you have questions for the applicant?
I have some requests and maybe some conditions.
Commissioner Richardson, would you have some also, or no?
Actually don't. We've been at this long enough that I pretty well have it vetted.
Okay, well, I have some too. And so I'm not sure who will speak on behalf of Connect Gen. And if it's going to be you, Amanda, would you just introduce your team so that people know who are here and who is talking, please?
My name's Amanda McDonald. I'm the project manager for the Rail Tie Wind project with ConnectGen. I also have John Kuba, who's director of environmental affairs for ConnectGen. Debbie Forey, who's our local outreach manager. On Zoom, we have our CEO, Kate Fens. And then we also have Amy Sherman with Tetra Tech, which is the environmental consulting firm that supported the permit application.
Thank you, Amanda. And Commissioner Ibarra.
Yes, I would like to start. First, I want to thank the public for all the comments we received on both sides of this rail tie wind project issue. To see so many citizens involved in expressing their thoughts and concerns on this project has been invaluable to me. Thank you to the public that is present here tonight, not only in person, but through Zoom. I want to especially thank those homeowners who took me on a tour of their property to witness some of the impacts this project will have on their land. The time you spent explaining why you either support or against this proposed project is appreciated and greatly helped in my decision process. It is a difficult decision we make here tonight. That being said, I must emphasize that my decision is not based solely on economic concerns for Albany County. And while I sympathize with those residents whose views will be affected, my primary concern is ultimately about renewable energy and the urgent need to take some serious steps to address climate change. We must demonstrate to the next generation that we are concerned about the environmental harm we have created. I am therefore taking responsibility to address that harm right now with this decision. I will vote to approve this permit tonight, but with some conditions that are reasonable for this wind project. All of them center around health and safety of residents and speak to ConnectGen's commitment to the safety and welfare of the residents while demonstrating that it is not just another business guided by the almighty dollar. ConnectGen being good neighbors, I would like to request there be a 1 mile setback from any existing non-participating homes. On one of my tours, I was taken to Sherry Birch's property to see the impact of the roadhouse project on her and her land. She was surrounded by 4 turbines, and one of them was just 3/4 mile from her house. As many of you have expressed, I too find the turbines visually intriguing, but they can also be intimidating. To have only 3,700 feet from my front or back door would be too close. Just as residents of the city are protected by a 1 mile setback from city limits, so should rural residents receive the same recognition and consideration. The commission recently presented ConnectGen with a question about putting fire suppression systems in the nacelles of the turbines. The response was, quote, "If the Albany County Commission finds turbine fire suppression systems a necessary and more effective fire mitigation measure than what is proposed by ConnectGen, then ConnectGen will install the systems in the project turbines," unquote. Yes, I want those systems installed. Speaking with personnel from the Albany County Fire District, I was told that adequate fire suppression is not a choice between a fire suppression system and a local fire response team. An analogy was made that in any given building, especially industrial building, there would not exist a sprinkler system and no response team, or a response team but no sprinkler system. Adequate fire suppression would include both. As stated in the Albany County Fire District 1's pre-hearing statement to the Industrial Siding Division, there are times when volunteers of the smaller departments are not able to respond because they are out of the area, or personnel cannot leave their regular paid jobs to voluntarily respond to the call. There are even times during the year when these rural fire departments are closed down. The Vestas, the proposed turbine vendor for the project, come with the fire suppression option, and the additional cost to connect gen is minimal. This is why fire suppression must be increased to ensure that there is adequate protection, not only for the turbines, but for the surrounding residents, structures, and wildlands. ConnectGen has agreed to the county's DBA noise limit of 55, especially for non-participating homes. ConnectGen has also agreed that blasting, if necessary, will be limited to daylight hours. If these conditions are agreed to by ConnectGen, then I will vote to approve the permit for the Rail Tie Wind Project. Amanda, can you make these commitments tonight?
Yes, we can agree to those conditions. I do have one question about the 1 mile setback from non-participating residences.
Existing non-participants.
Existing non-participating residences. So I know that the current wind regulations in the zoning resolution, they allow for the wind company to pursue waivers with non-participating landowners for setback requirements. So if that non-participating landowner chooses to, they can waive the setback requirement. Would that apply to this 1 mile setback condition?
If you approach each individual homeowner,
Right.
I'd be agreeable to that.
Anything else, Commissioner Rivera?
That's it for right now.
Okay, Commissioner Richardson, anything come up?
Sure. I intend to vote for this project. And the reason I do is because I believe in the rule of law. And I think that the Albany County wind regulations are adequate. I understand people's distaste for it, and I also understand the citizenry who support it. But I'm not inclined to rule by fiat. What distinguishes America from a lot of places in the world is that there's some predictability about the execution of the rule of law. And that's kind of my MO. So thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. So Amanda, before I talk with you, I too would like to thank the public, both for and against, because they have increased my knowledge of wind power and siting and our regulations. And all those things are good, I think, if you're a commissioner and trying to do the best job you can. I hold no idea that I'll make a perfect decision tonight. I'll know I'll make an informed decision tonight. I will have done the diligence that you allowed. Thank you. And I will do the very best I can. And so you have that, that consideration for me. So in my discussions with people in the last, I don't know, year and a half, Amanda, there were some terms that I think it is my job to help secure. I think your job, and I try not to speak for you, but I think your job is to get the very best deal you can. And I think my job is to limit that if I am to support it. And if those limiting factors are not something that you can handle business, well, that is your decision. So with regard to setbacks, I've been fairly consistent on the fact that I believe our setbacks are not adequate. And in fact, there is some statistical belief that there are setbacks in not only America, but in other countries in this world that deal with the height of the nacelle, the diameter of the blade, and a factor of 1.5 to allow a safety margin. Now, although I would rather that be applied. I think I cannot enforce this on you. Our regulations are pretty clear. But I believe in my interest, and I think also in your interest to being a good neighbor, that you would allow for 1.5 times the height of the nacelle times the diameter plus the diameter of the blade along all county roads or public roads on the plan. I also would like to see ADLS lighting systems. I know you can't give that guarantee. That's an FAA guarantee. And that is dependent upon the final sighting and then the discussion with the FAA going forward. I have some familiarity as a pilot of 20 some years about that process, not your process, but the FAA process. And I think a good faith effort isn't quite enough for me. I think that the university has been here and has determined that night skies are important for a grant that they would like to maintain. I think that's a fair arrangement. And I think that if you cannot secure ADLS for turbines, that you petition to the county for a variance on those turbines, or you just remove them from the project. I would like to talk about the road use agreement. I know it's in there, but I'd like to stress it. I think there are some real concerns about that management agreement. And since it's in our regulations, I won't beat it or belabor it. But I think that road use and management agreement is really important. And I think we're going to have to see something as a condition of this acceptance or that is reasonable, useful, and accurate to how the blades and the nacelle and the parts will be moved. Finally, I'd like, I guess I have two things in light of some other conversations. I would like, and I know you can't ensure that if you were to sell this project, but that you would ensure that any conversation that you made today was in that final document to the seller or the purchaser of this project. I think that for me, I can't control that in your boardroom. I think that you and your team should be able to engage in that type of handshake business deal in front of the public, because that's who we represent, so that we can have some certainty that there won't be bankruptcy, and then all this time and effort will be for naught. And I worry about that. And I worry about that because I am the son of an oil field worker in Western Wyoming, and I have seen businesses run over local populations. And it's my job, as I see as a commissioner, to represent those local populations and to do the very best I can to make the very best deal for the people I serve. And finally, I would ask that you work with local folks impacted by shadow flicker. I think it's a real concern. I am certainly not an expert on healthcare or the impacts of shadow flicker. But I think this is an opportunity to do good by doing well, right? You can do good business and you can still make a buck. I've done some research on wind turbines. They're highly profitable. That's neither here nor there. But some of these are minimal costs to the expenses. And I think it is, quite honestly, the cost of doing business in a community that really does care. I have to tell you, I'm a bit disappointed that nobody in the C-suite is here tonight in person. I know Mr. Caton is online. This is important. You were here when this room was packed, both online and in person. I am concerned by the fact that nobody from the C-suite is here in person, that maybe they won't be here either if there were to be some transgressions. I hope that doesn't happen. But I really would think if I were in that C-suite that I would have made every effort to be here. This is important, right? I'm not sure if you guys will make your homes here, but everybody else here does. And this project might be approved and you move back to wherever you are. And we won't. And I think that's really important to remember, right? That it isn't just about the dollar. And that being a good neighbor is important. And if it takes a few less windmills to make that happen, well, right, it's all right. We all could do with a few less bucks, right? And a few better relationships. So my conditions would be about the ADLS, the road use agreement, the future company, if this were to be sold, ensure that those, whatever agreements and commitments that you make tonight or that are transferred on to the next purchaser. And then I would ask that you consider the setbacks and you consider the shadow flicker. I have to tell you that I feel it's not your fault or anybody else's fault, but I have to rely on your modeling of many of the setback requirements and the decibels and the shadow flicker, and feel a little uncomfortable. I don't know how else to remedy that, but I'm going to have to trust and verify. But I will be very strict if this goes through, and I will do my best. And you can take this one to the bank that people like Sherry Burgess will not be run over in Albany County as long as I'm here. That whatever you agree to, that we will try to enforce to the best of our ability, money notwithstanding. And so I really want, I know this is serious, and I know you understand where we're coming from, but I really want you to know I got to live here before and after being a commissioner. And I will do it knowing that I did the best job I can. And I hope you'll help me out making a good business deal by doing good. And so I would like to know if you guys are committed to some of those things. All of those things, excuse me.
Yes, I think your conditions present a reasonable compromise for this project.
Commissioners, anything else? Nothing, Commissioner Richardson? Okay. Well, I'd entertain a motion. Excuse me, yep, go ahead. John? You're more than welcome to, John.
Yeah, the only thing I would add is if we could get specific detail on the conditions. I know, as we design the project based on the Albany County WEX ordinance, we have very specific parameters to design the project around, and that's how we ultimately develop, construct, and operate the project. I think the conditions you described are appropriate, and we can compromise and adopt those, but we'd like to understand specifically how they're worded, how they're framed, make sure we understand exactly what we're committed to with adopting those conditions.
Okay, would that be something that we could handle, not here, or can I give you the broad detail or outline of these, and then we can hammer out the details? Would you feel comfortable doing that?
I think that's appropriate.
Okay.
Kelly,
Please.
Could you give us just 5 minutes to confer, just to make sure we are all on the same page about what these conditions are and what I don't see the problem. I just think
Sure. You're welcome to. You bet. This is an ask. And this is an ask. Yeah.
So, that's a special condition.
Yes, yes, sir.
Just a second. Pretty subjective. So we have to find a way to make it concrete, and I don't know if it would be enforceable if it's not defined in the motion. Does that make sense? So, let's look at it. Oh, I gotcha. Gotcha. Mhm. Right. Sure. Yeah. Well, I'm gonna tell you that I don't particularly like it, but it's not an open process. We're basically changing it, so we make the rules. Publishing 45 days public. We're just on the fly making rules that are codified. It's just-
They're asking.
Sure. See, I would vote for it if they say no. To me, that doesn't, I don't require anything more. But I'm in fight with you guys on that. If you're inclined to inflict some extra legal requests on them. I think that's the project. Yeah.
Please go ahead. The floor is yours.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, just want to go through, could we go through each one and make sure we're clear on the wording? I don't think that we have a problem. We just want to make sure we're all on the same page exactly with what the conditions would be that would attach to this permit.
Sure.
As I understand it from Commissioner Ibarra, there would be a 1 mile setback from any existing non-participating residents with the possibility for a waiver, homeowner to waive that 1 mile setback. The second condition is that fire suppression systems will be installed on the turbines. Correct. Third condition is that consistent with the commitments Connection has made, that the blasting would occur in daylight hours only. And that in this one, I was a little unclear on the 55 dBH, that we would commit to that standard that's within the regulations of not to exceed 55 dBH. Is that correct? Or is there something different to that?
No, and this is already in the regs, but should an individual homeowner approach the commission of some issue with that it's beyond that noise limit, that ConnectGen approach us about that, and we would deal with any difference at that time. Okay.
So the homeowner, if the homeowner approaches the commission with a concern that it's exceeding the 55 dBH, then the commission would deal with it at that time.
Directly with ConnectGen.
Then Chairman Gosar, and I think this is the one we want to make sure we're clear on, is your setback requirement for county or public roads at 1.5 times the height of the nacelle plus the diameter of the blade. Is that correct?
Right.
Setback along all county roads or public roads.
Right.
Right. I mean, do you all understand it?
I guess the confusion there is, sorry to be popping up again. So all of the setback calculations in the zoning resolution, it's, a multiple of the total tip height. So that's the nacelle height plus the radius of the blade. So trying to figure out, are you following that same formula that's in the zoning resolution and increasing it from, 1.1 to 1.5?
I'm asking for 1.5 height of the nacelle plus diameter of the blade, not radius of the blade.
Understood.
Next, with respect to the ADLS, that if ConnectGen cannot secure an ADLS from the FAA for the turbines, that they will come to the county to seek
a variance from the request or otherwise remove those turbines that could not qualify.
Correct.
The third is to follow through on the road use and management agreements that's in progress and ensure that that is completed prior to construction.
That's correct.
The fourth is to ensure that any commitments made with this permit are carried through by any potential purchaser of this project in the future, should that be necessary.
That's correct.
And then finally, that ConnectGen would work with folks impacted by the shadow flicker. And can you maybe tell me what you think that looks like? If folks have concerns, they come to ConnectGen. How would you see that working?
Yeah, it's an ask of you guys that if they're beyond the 30 hours or the industry standard shadow flicker, that you guys find some remediation or you work with them. You might not be able to find remediation, but at least have an opportunity to work with them. And if you need to have the county commission intercede, that would be well within this body's opportunity to do that.
Thank you. Is that your commissioner's complete list? Thank you. Then on behalf of ConnectGen, they will appreciate those and will accept and commit to those conditions.
Commissioners, thank you very much. I appreciate it. And thanks for delineating that for us. It's really important and helpful. Commissioners, I entertain a motion.
I have a question for Kurt or Jennifer first.
Please, go ahead.
So in my motion, is it necessary to state these special conditions? Or can I just say, considering the special conditions that were agreed upon tonight?
I think you can say, reference the special conditions that were agreed upon tonight, as well as the findings of fact and conclusions of law, incorporating the WEX application, all of that language that's generally in the recommendation of approval of action on your cover sheet. If you have that, if not, I'll give you mine.
We don't.
I'd entertain a motion for the Rail Tie Wind Project WECS-01-21.
Mr. Chair, I move that we approve the Rail Tie Wind Project application WECS-01-21 based upon and incorporating the finding of fact and conclusions of law as listed in the staff report and considering all the conditions agreed upon tonight.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Mitch, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. Mitch Edwards on behalf of our clients, a group of homeowners. There's a couple of issues that I'd like to just ask for clarification regarding these conditions that are part of this motion. The first is with respect to the residential setback and the waiver provision. And is it the intent that one person can waive that particular setback for an entire subdivision? And two, with respect to shadow flicker, with all due respect, I don't believe that working with somebody is a standard that can be enforced. And so we'd like for there to be a standard set, such as no shadow flicker off of the participating properties or something along that can actually be defined so that the folks know what that is for their health and safety. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mitch. Yes, sir, please.
Commissioners Luke Hawkins, Albany County Fire District 1. I just want to clarify on your conditions that you had said those fire suppression systems were going to be in addition to cost to ConnectGen. Is that correct in terms of on top of impact?
Correct.
Correct. Okay. Thank you.
Mhm.
So with regard to the shadow flicker, that is not in our regulations. I can't make up regulations tonight, nor would I try. However, I am asking, and I am getting their ConnectGen's assertion tonight, that they will be a good neighbor. And there's a certain amount of trust that has to be in this process when your regulations aren't where I think they need to be. And so, Mitch, I would love to have a standard in front of you and an ability to make this more definable. But as it is, and you're well familiar, I can't make up regulations on the fly, nor will I try. And so I'm hopeful that this conversation we've had, that this agreement that we have come to will be honored by folks. And, you know, there is a standard that's for shadow flicker. Our regulations talk about that. So we need to just hold to that standard. But if there is some concern, and if there is somebody who with reasonable suspicion says I'm above that standard, we need to hold to that standard. And we need to do the best we can to be neighbors. I wish we had more regulations. I really do. I wish they were more tight, but we just don't have them. So it's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Hearing and seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye, please.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, all those opposed, same sign. That motion carries. I would like to thank you all for your participation over the last year and a half as I have been at it. I would appreciate and thank you for the good work you did. There are people in this audience who went above and beyond to try to educate this commission, and I'm grateful for that. I think the deal is a better deal because of your efforts. Now, I have no idea that it's a perfect deal. I have no idea, nor do I fool myself that I think everybody will be happy. But it is the best and is the right conclusion for me. And so with that, I would move. Yes.
Since you already taken the vote, I didn't want to ask before to be presumptive, but can you confirm what Mr. Gertsch said earlier, that that there's not a need for an additional conditional use permit, that the WEX permit meets the requirements of the regulations?
It is my understanding through our county planner that the WEX permitting meets the use of the conditional use permit.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Seeing no business before the county commission on July 13th, 2021, I move to adjourn this meeting. Thank you all. Have a great evening.
Thanks, you guys.